Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Let's first have a revisit of problem 21, merge two sorted lists, and then as a warm-up, we are going to explain the idea of this problem in the context of linked list, and then we are going to make a follow-up video to solve problem 2570. So this problem 21 and problem 2570 are both marked easy in the Leetcode problem statement. However, these two problems are very typical. So especially in problem 2570, we're going to comment on some assumptions. So with that said, let's look at this problem 21. So here the context are linked lists. So we're going to explain how to merge the two linked lists, and then also we return a sorted list. So here basically we're going to use the dummy node trick. So this is actually very common for problems related to linked list. First I'm going to read through the problem statement and look at one example, and then we explain the idea, and in the after that, we're going to do the coding, and in between, we explain the code line by line and their effects. So now let's look at the problem statement. So we are given the heights of the two linked lists, list 1 and list 2. Merge the two lists in one sorted list. The list should be made by splicing together the nodes of the first two lists. So we are required to return the height of the merged linked list. So here are several examples. So actually examples 2 and 3 basically tell us that the lists can be empty. So let's look at one generic case, that is example 1. So the first example is a linked list consisting of values 1 to 4. Similarly, the second one, the 1, 3, 4. So the final result will be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, right? So this is the output. So notice that here the output is in a list format, and in the problem, so we should return a linked list. So with that said, let's also look at the constraints. So we can actually regard the constraints as additional assumptions for the problem. First, the number of nodes in both lists is in the range given by a closed interval, so 0 and 50. So this basically defines the upper bound of the problem size. Secondly, the node values are in between negative 100 and positive 100. So in particular, it tells that the node value can be negative, but this assumption is not that essential for us. Thirdly, so both the two lists are sorted in non-decreasing order. So with that said, actually we can analyze the problem. So here the idea is that we're going to initialize a dummy node. So this actually is a very routine trick, but it brings us a lot of convenience. And then we're going to connect with the smaller height among list 1 and list 2 in the process, and then we move forward. So this is very similar to the two pointers method if we merge two vanilla lists, right? So so here, as we mentioned, this is a preliminary revisit or warm-up example. So here we want to compare this example with problem 2570. So with that said, let's do the coding. So here, let's first make a dummy node. So it's a list node. So because the node value here is in between negative 100 and positive 100, so I'm going to use a 101. See, very small, but you know this is not essential at all. So let's let me maybe do something like this to specify this, and then we are going to make a current running variable. Let's say it's dummy, and then we are going to traverse the two lists simultaneously. So list 1 or list 2. So notice that here I'm using the OR logical relation. So actually, for this problem, you can also use add, but the following code will be slightly different. Let's use all here. And then first I'm going to consider one case if list 1 and list 2. So in this case, both the two lists are non-null. In other words, so we have two heights to compare. So we want to see which is smaller so that we can connect that smaller one with the dummy, right? So here let's consider the value. If list 1 value is no larger than we can write list 2 value, right? So if this is the case, we're going to connect the list 1 height with the dummy. Let me first get the list 1 next. So this is going to be list 1 next. So we put it aside so that we can update list 1. And then we're going to connect the current, that is dummy, with the current list 1, right? And then we're going to update the current to be list 1, and list 1 to be list 1 next. So this is one situation. Otherwise, so list 2 has a height value that is smaller. So we need to connect the list 2 height with the current or the dummy at the very beginning. So in this case, similarly, so let's first save list 2 next. And then what we are going to do is that, so we set current next to be list 2. And then the current we move to list 2, right? And then list 2 to be list 2 next. So this is the case when both list 1 and list 2 are not null. So otherwise, it will corresponding to the cases that the short one is already finished, and then we left one, either list 1 or list 2, but not both. So in this case, let's use an else if block. So if list 1, so in this case, we just need to connect with list 1 with the current, and then we just break, right? So similarly, another case is that it list 2, right? So we're going to connect with list 2, and then we break. So finally, we just need to return dummy next, right? So this is our way for treating this easy problem, I would say. But this problem is important in some sense because it's demonstrates a general pattern for merging two sorted lists, either in vanilla list or in sorted list context. So with that said, I guess first let's make a test. Yeah, it passes the first example. So now let's look at the generic case. Yeah, it passes all the generic cases. So with that said, let's make some comments. So here, if you see the two examples, so for example, if list 1 or list 2 both empty, like in example 2. So in this case, we are going to return null, but in the code, and so it will not enter the while block. So we actually just return dummy next. So because we set dummy next to be null is the default, right? So it will have a none. So that's about it for this problem. So as we mentioned, we're going to go to problem 2570, and then we solve that problem using 2 pointers, and then make some adjustment or comments on the assumptions. With that said, I guess that's about it for this video. Thank you.